Good morning, good afternoon, good night to everyone around the world. I'm your favorite friendly neighborhood beer bro, Mr. Kennedy. I just wanted to come on and say a few things about this man on my screen right here. Anyone who knows me knows that I am a wrestling fan. I've been a big wrestling fan my whole entire life since I was a little kid. And even though this man was not my favorite wrestler, Macho Man Randy Savage is, but this man was a big reason why I enjoyed wrestling the way that I did back then and the way that I do now. We lost the biggest wrestling name, the biggest wrestling personality, the biggest wrestling icon of my generation of the past 45 years. A couple of days ago, Terry Bollea, Hulk Hogan, passed away from cardiac arrest, age 71. Now, I'm going to try to be fair about a lot of things because Hulk Hogan, towards the end of his life, was a very controversial figure. So I'm going to talk to y'all as both Kennedy, the wrestling fan, and Kennedy, the grown man, man to man. A lot of memories this guy gave me growing up as a kid, being a wrestling fan. I got to watch him in two different companies. The only wrestler that went to two different companies and brought in wrestling booms those companies have never seen before. Once in the WWF as a babyface during the Hulk Rules days, and his second run as the heel in the NWO, Hollywood Hogan. And I watched both of them and I enjoyed every second of it. Classic feuds, classic matches that I remember when I was a kid sitting there with my grandfather and my brother and my cousins, and we would watch WWF. That's what it was called back then. We would watch that, the pay-per-views, WrestleMania, SummerSlam. We would watch Wrestling Challenge and all of that stuff like that. The main event. And this man was everywhere. He was the first guy to nationalize wrestling. He was on magazines. He was on talk shows. He had his own cartoon. He was the first wrestler to do that stuff. And everybody followed in his footsteps. There are a lot of people right now that would not be wrestling fans if it was not for Hulk Hogan. A lot of people became wrestlers because they saw Hulk Hogan growing up as a kid. I cannot overstate the fact how important this man was to wrestling. He was the right guy at the right time. Charisma for days. Had a larger than life personality. He looked like a superhero. When you're a little kid looking at him back in the 80s, he looked like a comic book character, along with a lot of those other guys, you know. So I have a lot of memories of Hulk Hogan as a kid. My favorite storyline, still to this day, is the Mega Powers. Him and Randy Savage linking up. The Mega Powers combined, and then they explode at WrestleMania 5. You know, his match against Savage for the championship at Mania 5 is one of my favorite matches. His match against the Ultimate Warrior, WrestleMania 6. Ultimate Warrior's best match that I can think of. You know, you would have to count I guess you can count the Ravishing Rick Rude stuff because Rick Rude was a great opponent for him as well, too. And of course, Macho Man as well, too. His match at Mania 7 against Sergeant Slaughter for the championship. I watched all of that. I watched his feuds with the Big Boss Man and Roddy Piper and Paul Orndorff and, you know, Jake the Snake Roberts. King Kong Bundy, the list goes on. Undertaker, he had feuds with them all. Some of the biggest stars and legends of that time period. Hulk was the guy. Went on to WCW. Well, I'm gonna skip past the first half of his time there because it wasn't all that great. Y'all, the alliance to end Hulkamania and all of that shit that I had to sit through with the Faces of Fear. But 1996, Bash at the Beach, when he goes heel and he joins up with Kevin Nash and Scott Hall, and they form the New World Order, the coolest faction to ever be formed. And this is, let me tell you about the impact of the NWO. To this day, there are companies trying to emulate what those guys did. To this day, how many times have you seen big groups come together and try to take over the company and try to be the cool heel faction? That was the NWO. They did it first. And he took WCW to heights that they never seen before and that they didn't see since then. And, you know, it's just, as a wrestling fan, it sucks. It feels like a part of my childhood died. You know, and we already lost a lot of wrestlers already. A lot of those wrestlers that I just named that he feuded with, a lot of them are no longer here. You know, so me as the wrestling fan, I'm definitely going to miss him. Now I'm going to talk to y'all as man, you know, as the man, Kennedy. I'm well aware of that, you know, that Terry Bollea was a controversial man. Hulk Hogan was a very controversial man. He said a lot of things. I'm aware of the politics that he played backstage, you know, holding other wrestlers down. I'm aware of the tall tales that he would tell that could easily be debunked if you were a wrestling historian, which I am. I'm very much aware of the racist tirade that he went on his sex tape. And let me say this. That was 10 years ago. One of the things that angered me is that one of the things I will never tolerate ever is somebody celebrating somebody's death. There's a reason why I don't go on TikTok. There's a reason why I don't go on Twitter or X or whatever the fuck you want to call it, or Facebook, is because these places, you know, people have brain rot. I don't understand how anybody could celebrate a man dying or a woman dying. You can hate somebody. I don't even like to use that word. I don't hate people. You know, I strongly dislike some people. But I would never wish death. I would never celebrate that somebody is sick. I would never celebrate that somebody died. You know, and it's like, I'm aware of what Hulk Hogan did in his later years. But to me, it's just worse. It bounced right off my back. He was an asshole for saying those things. Yes, and I'm not condoning that. I'm not ignoring it. You know, what he said was unforgivable. But for me, you know, that's no reason to celebrate that the man died. And I think that a lot of y'all should be ashamed of yourselves. I think that a lot of y'all need to touch some grass and reevaluate your life, because that's sick. That is sick to celebrate somebody dying or somebody being sick. And that's all I'm going to say about that. Hulk Hogan, you know, Hulk Hogan passed away, but Hulkamania will live forever. He will be immortalized through wrestling. You'll always be able to pick up his matches and go back to when you were a kid, to where, like, me and my brother, like, we used to put plastic bags on our bodies, and then we would rip it like Hulk Hogan would rip the shirt. Like, we just rip like plastic bags and stuff. You know, just so many memories, man. So many memories. But that's pretty much all I'm gonna say. I hope he found peace in his final moments that he had. And rest in peace to the greatest.